Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for Ramuh Extreme. It may shock you to find out that this extreme mode isn't that different from the hard mode, and you should be able to pick up the differences in a flash. So put on your rubber boots and try not to rain on anyone's parade, because in this fight, lightning does strike twice. My name is Ms. Tech, and I'll be your Punjin guide. If you've watched my hard mode guide, you should be familiar with the thunderstorm mechanic. This will target both players and the ground, and it's imperative that players do not stack onto more than one thunderstorm. Ground thunderstorms spawn in random fixed positions on the platform and will leave behind a lightning orb. The more lightning orbs you have, the greater the damage Ramuh deals to the raid. The most significant difference in Extreme mode is how your group will handle the lightning orbs. On Extreme mode, Ramuh will often cast the tank with SHOCKSTRIKE, an ability that will destroy any tank through any cooldowns, unless they have the Power Surge debuff. Eating 3 orbs will grant you this Power Surge debuff, which will turn that massive blast into an easy 2 or 3k tickle for the 55 seconds of its duration. You'll have 10 seconds in between each orb you eat to stack the debuff, so once you start eating, you'll have a time limit to grab all 3. If you accidentally pick up more than 3 orbs, you'll be afflicted with static condensation, indicating that you've overdosed on orbs. This lasts for a whopping 55 seconds and lowers the amount of healing you receive. Although it will still protect you from dying to SHOCKSTRIKE, it is obviously something that everyone, especially the tanks, need to avoid stacking. Let's go over the tank swap and orbs in some detail, as they are fairly important. The first tank pulls Ramuh, and depending on the orb placements will grab his 3 orbs or allow the second tank to grab them. Once a tank gets 3 orbs and their Power Surge debuff is up, they should taunt and tank as soon as it's safe. The off tank will then wait on the next set of orbs to spawn, eat his 3 balls before taunting back. At this point, chances are the previous tank will still have some time remaining on his Power Surge debuff, and will have to wait on the next set of thunderstorms to start eating orbs. This leads us into a specific pattern for orb eating and extra orb management. Since the damage of Thunderstorm increases substantially with each orb left up, we want as few free orbs on the platform as possible. Your tank should be calling out each time they need to eat and anytime orbs are free. Once your tank has his orbs and he calls for free orbs, all players should ensure that they have no orbs around them. If they do, they need to run over and clear any extra up to a maximum of 2 orbs. Remember that popping 3 gives you the Surge debuff and popping more will give you the Healing debuff. Both of these debuffs will ultimately render you useless in helping to clear any future free orbs, so make sure you only eat 2 balls. The next major change from hard mode is Chaotic Strike, which will cast in sequence with every other thunderstorm. Chaotic will target 2 players and seduce them, causing them to slowly walk towards Ramuh, where they will ultimately be cleaved to death by Thunderspark, his point-blank AoE. As such, it is imperative that these players are broken out immediately. Conveniently, Thunderstorm usually casts moments after Chaotic Strike, and all players should be ready to free the chaotic victims. The best way to handle Chaotic Strike is very similar to the way that you handle ballistic missiles in turn 7. First, you want a set location for all Chaotic Strike victims. We use Waymark A right behind Ramuh. Any player targeted by a Chaotic Strike with this super obvious orange target needs to immediately move to A. Next, you want to set up a hierarchy of responsibility of who will be breaking out the victims. Using numbers, make sure everyone knows exactly who's breaking out who during any possible thunderstorm. There is a chance that the Chaotic Strike players will be hit by a ground thunderstorm. In this case, all other players need to stay away. The last thing to note is the platform is surrounded by a ring of water. After every thunderstorm, the water will electrify, damaging any player in the water at the time with a hard-hitting conductivity. Water plus lightning equals bad. This substantially decreases the amount of room players have to avoid stacking thunderstorms. But remember, you can always overlap thunderstorm circles. Just make sure you're not overlapping on players. You'll be dealing with all of these abilities throughout the entire fight, and getting a good handle on these will lead to clear skies in later phases. Another quick thing to note, it may suit you to hold DPS going into each phase change. For example, Ramuh may cast Chaotic Strike, but be pushed into phase 2 before he can cast Thunderstorm. As such, it's worth waiting for each phase transition until he's cast his wombo combo of raid killing abilities. At 65%, 6 adds will spawn in the outer ring that will blast columns of lightning around the room. All players need to switch to these adds and burn them down in sequence. These are similar to Ifrit's nails and need to be burned down before Ramuh casts his ultimate. Should you fail to kill these adds in time, you will instantly wipe. This is really the only major DPS check of the fight, so be sure to pop your coolies and burn them down. Remember that during these adds, you're still dealing with Chaotic Strikes, Thunderstorms, and tank swaps. Since the adds spawn around the outer ring, it's also important that all melee players avoid the water during thunderstorms. Halfway through the ad phase, tanks can stop calling out free orbs. This is a good time to start stacking a few orbs in preparation for Phase 3 mechanics. Ramuh will cast his ultimate, and healers can take this time to top the raid. The first new mechanic you'll see in Phase 3 is Rolling Thunder. Similar to hard mode, Rolling Thunder will tether 2 players together and apply a dot anytime they cast an ability. The only way to break this tether is to have one of those 2 players eat 3 orbs. This phase transition can be a little spicy because the tanks are still trying to handle their swaps, and speaking from experience, you'll end up with some grumpy tanks if you steal their orbs. The simplest way to deal with this is to have a priority list. The tethered players will sit on their thumbs until the tanks call out that they can have their orbs. Sound familiar? With the timing in this phase, your free orb callouts have basically switched to tether orbs. Once your tanks are good, make sure that only one tethered player runs around to grab their orbs. Once both tanks and tethers have their 3 orbs each, the players can clear out any of the extra orbs. Chaotic strikes and thunderstorms are still happening, so remember to deal with those appropriately. At 30%, another set of ads will spawn around the outer ring. This time, these ads are not targetable and instead will float around the outer perimeter, blasting their lightning across the platform. To avoid unnecessary damage, players should avoid the warning lines. Basically, these are just a nuisance and can otherwise be ignored. Continue swapping tanks, breaking tethers and chaotic strikes, and remember not to stack thunderstorms. This continues on until you've destroyed the boss. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.